I just think it's something that's very real for everybody in America, specifically, man, especially men.
Okay.
Porn, you know, just to come right on out there with it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, that's what we're gonna talk about.
Just
okay. The addiction is real.
Yeah, man. It is, and I don't think that really people understand what porn does.
You know, I've been addicted to porn probably from like, I would say like college through like late 20s. I remember I had this conversation with myself. I said, okay, dude, I have to quit this time. Like, and I made a promise to myself. I was like, if you watch it again, you're gonna have to tell Xanta. You know, I didn't know what to expect from her, what her reaction would be, but it wasn't good.
So welcome to the Get Busy Podcast with your boy, B. Jones.
That right there is Izzy.
We in this thing. It's a great day. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good, man. As you can see, my Cavaliers are we 12-0 right now? It was 11-0 when I last checked.
Hold on, man. Let me see. What time is it? And did they lose? That's the question.
Oh, you just hoping that they lost. Everybody hate on Cleveland, man.
Hey, man.
Listen, the only team in the league. Look, I'm gonna pretend because y'all don't know the date we record this stuff. So last time I checked, it was 11-0. So the only team in the league that's undefeated right now, them Cavaliers.
Hey, man, I'm gonna give a shout out to the Cavs, man. It goes to show the difference what good leadership will do for your squad.
For sure.
And they switched coaches in the offseason to Kenny Atkinson.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't believing in Bickerstaff, man. It just for whatever reason, they didn't change any pieces. It's the same exact team, and nobody was injured.
Yeah,
and they're kicking people's teeth in, man.
Yeah, bro. Listen, man, might get coach of the year.
I mean, if they keep it up, it's a long season though.
It is a long season,
I mean? But hey, man, shout out for when shots are due.
For sure. How you doing, bro?
Well, my Knicks just beat the Philadelphia 76ers yesterday in the play-in tournament game. So the one that counts towards it, cup game. I'll take that.
Cat. The 76ers good on paper, but
I mean, hey, listen, all right.
I'm just saying.
Hey, all we can do is play who's in front of us, man.
You're right. A win is a win.
Hey, Joel was on the floor.
Okay, for sure.
Barely, but he was there. So anyway, I'm good, man. It's been a long day. Naomi has an ear infection, so I had to get up at like 12. No, didn't get up. I didn't go to sleep. But I went into her room at like 12:30. She was, Daddy, my ear hurts. So that went on till about 4 o'clock when she finally was able to get to sleep after the Tylenol kicked in and everything. I guess the Flonase. And we went to the doctor, man. The lady looked in the ear. Looked in the up one ear. I was like, okay, good job. Looked in the other. She said, oh, yep, that's definitely ear infection.
Oh,
she barely even got the
Did she snap her head back? She was like, oh.
She was like, oh.
That's not what you want to hear when somebody's examining your child and be like, oh my God. Like that startled look. Like a seasoned doctor or nurse. Like
she was like, oh, yep, that's definitely an ear infection. Like I don't have to look far. So
wow.
Yeah, man. But it's definitely all good. You know what I mean? We got a lot of stuff that's going on right now. A lot of stuff on the stove, in the oven. It's pretty great. Can't complain.
You got another baby coming?
Whoa. Man, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. Man, hold on. Whoa. I was just, I'm saying like pots in the stove. You know what I mean? Like you got fires in the, like, you know what I mean?
Okay, you're using terminology in a way that I've never heard. So.
All right, yeah, maybe okay, that's my bad.
Say, I got something, we got something in the oven. It's like, you got a baby coming?
Hell to the nah.
Number 5, you trying to, I know you're competitive, but.
Nah, man, listen.
Get that starting 5 going.
Man.
I'm sorry, was that traumatic, bro?
Man.
over here suffering from depression right
But man,
now.
I'm thinking about how real that is, man. Hey, shout out to all the parents out there, man, with all the families that got a lot of babies, man. It's real.
Yeah. I heard somebody said this comedian, somebody asked this comedian, like, he had like, I think 4 kids or whatever. It's like, so what's it like having 4 kids? He was like, it's like you in the middle of the ocean trying to keep all 3 kids from drowning and somebody throws you a 4th kid.
That's the best description I've ever heard.
Yeah, bro. It gets real in these streets.
Yeah, man.
What we talking about today?
Hey, man. So, going through some things, and I just think it's something that's very real for everybody in America, specifically, man, especially men.
Okay.
Porn. Just to come right on out there with it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, that's what we're gonna talk
Hey,
about.
just
okay.
Man, Ice Cube
I
had
didn't
the
know
No
that.
Vaseline song, so just go ahead and just jump right on out there.
Wow, that's a very descriptive song to reference.
Hey, and the crazy part is I don't even know that song. Like I know the title of it, but I don't know how the song sounds. I couldn't tell you.
You know what? I don't either.
Like I don't know it.
I feel embarrassed to
admit that, especially on camera. But yeah, that's I wasn't really into West Coast music though. Like at that time, in the '80s or whenever that song came out, the early. I don't know when it came out. Maybe
we wasn't
early
allowed
90s.
to listen to that music back at that time, and we didn't have the access.
Nah, it wasn't just I could
we
just
do
type it
now.
in and stream it. You know what I'm saying?
I never went back as an adult to like, let me just listen to it.
Nah, I'm good. So, forgive me if that was too terrible of a reference. Hey, but it's real. But anyway, no, man. I know you ran across there was an interview where, and this guy, the creator of Pornhub, he's kind of been going across a lot of platforms. He's been interviewed by a lot of people over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Talking about the diligent work that he's been doing at Pornhub to remove the inappropriate content off of their sites and to make sure that they're really being strict on what content is being put up, stuff like that. When it comes to, children and it comes to, whatever else that could be wrong. And, I don't know the extra details, but it really got, I know it got you to thinking, it got me to thinking as well, just how serious of a roadblock, porn is for so many people. I dare say, man, most American men, have dealt with it in some capacity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Whether
so
it's been
I think
a roadblock or not.
The last statistic I heard was like 30% of porn watchers are women. So
Yeah.
it's men and women.
Yeah.
But no. So the guy, he was on Patrick Bet David's podcast, and he was him and his partner who was a female. They were like they're part of the ownership group, the new ownership group that took over Pornhub, which is the largest porn site in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So they're making really good money. I mean it's crazy, man. Like even with like what's the thing, OnlyFans.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of these girls, like, so they reference one girl who, okay, so they were talking about how, like you said, Pornhub, they were trying to, so basically they're trying to create blocks to make sure that underage stuff, you can't search for it on there. You can't find anybody underage. So they got like, you got to like submit like your driver's license and do all these like, steps of verifications, all that to make sure there's no like, minor, illegal stuff going on, and so, and the guy, he's of Jewish faith. So he's got a family and all that. And so, it was very interesting. Like, him, Patrick was asking him like, well, how does your family feel about this? Like, this thing that you do. And he was like, because him and the guy in particular, like he was in charge of, making sure that everything was on the up and up as far as like legal, and like they were like basically leading the industry in like all these safeguards to make sure that it's a safe environment. And so, you know, his family was like proud of him. You know, he got like two 19-year-old boys, 16-year-old, I think got like a daughter or whatever. But like, you know, it was different. Like listening to that, it was like, wow, okay. So, you know, but he was saying like, it was like one girl on OnlyFans, as soon as she turned 19, I think she might have been internet famous.
Okay.
And as soon as she turned like 18, I think she made like $1 million like her first day on OnlyFans. It's crazy. Like, so it just really shows like there's definitely a demand for porn in the world. And it seems to be this thing that, I mean, it's affected so many people, you know what I'm saying? Like,
man, it's only getting bigger and it's only growing. It's only getting bigger, stronger, faster.
Yeah.
The access that we have to it, the capacity that is taken up in people's minds, like sex sells, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, you know, growing up, there was like, you know, magazines, you know, Hustler or Playboy or whatever it was,
Yeah.
you know?
You can always like remember the first time you like stumbled upon
Right.
a magazine. I think I was at a family member's house. I won't say any names. But you know, somebody had a magazine up in the, you know, the top shelf of the closet. The other cousin knew of the stash, brought it down, and we were all just like looking at it, mesmerized. Cause I was, you know, I was a kid, like, I don't know, elementary school maybe. And just like, oh wow, this is, you know what I'm saying? And that's just what it was, you know what I'm saying? But like now it's like it might as well be a porn magazine in everybody's pocket right now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
man, yeah, 100%. I mean, and to the 10th power, like these phones, you know, give you unlimited access to whatever it is for the most part. You know what I mean? It's way more than, because the magazine was just pictures at the end of the day, even as descriptive as the pictures were.
Yeah.
But this is like having an uncut, you know, paid subscription to a 900 line or an Adam and Eve channel or whatever those, you know, channels that they used to have. That was just the squiggly lines that kids would kind of, you know, catch a picture of a boob that was kind of, you know, messed up. Be like, oh, there's a boob right there. You know what I mean?
Okay, so some of y'all don't know what we're talking about. So, so back in the day when, you know, if your family had a little bit of money, you had cable. You had the cable box sitting on top of your TV, and like I don't know, was it like channel like 99 or something like that, where if you paid the extra money, then those adult channels or the adult, it might have been just like one channel or two that, you know, would be available to you. If you didn't, it was like scrambled. So like, you know, you a kid, your parents ain't home, you go to channel 99 and it's like all squiggly, but sometimes it'll kind of malfunction and you kind of see like something. You're just like sitting there waiting for like, you know, 20 minutes.
For like 2 seconds worth of a
like less
of a body part.
No, it's probably like a second, maybe a half second, and then you waited like another 20 minutes to see if maybe you could catch something else. But yeah, that's just what it was back then.
That's what it was.
You're a kid and you got hormones and you know what I'm saying. But yeah, porn is I mean, the addiction is real.
Yeah, man, it is, and I don't think that really people understand what porn does, because everybody enjoys the physical pleasure of, like, you know, whatever you act out on, you know, with yourself or with somebody else, whatever, anything that's sexually oriented, right? You you enjoy sex. God created it to be enjoyable. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But when you start to walk down that path, and different people do it for different reasons and at different times of life and everything else, but I don't think that we really grasp what's happening psychologically. Like, I don't think that we understand. A lot of people go about it almost innocent. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, well, I'm not out here having sex with a bunch of people. You know, I'm just watching some porn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's better than, you know, doing this, that, or the
feel
third.
like you're not hurting anybody, anything.
Correct.
So what's your understanding of, because like, you know, I've been addicted to porn probably from like, I would say like college through like early adult, like late 20s. You know, that's been a minute, and it, you know, it went all the way, you know, through to when I got married. You know, I was still Still addicted to it. Tried to stop like several times. So I got to the point where I really like was trying to quit. Like I didn't like just like the inconvenience of like having like hide it and do all this stuff like to make sure nobody knew, like being nervous whenever like, Xanta would open the laptop like, oh, did I erase my history and all that kind of stuff. Right. And it's like, it was really stressful.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point, it wasn't even like, it's like a drug. Like, they say the first time you do a drug, it's like you're trying to find that first high. Like it wasn't even really like as enjoyable anymore, but it was still it was just weird. The addiction was still like as strong, even though I didn't enjoy it as much. But like I remember I had this conversation with myself. I said, okay, dude, you have to quit this time. Like, and I made a promise to myself. I was like, if you watch it again, you're going to have to tell Xanta. And I was like serious about it. So I think I went like a, pretty long period of time without looking at it. And then I did. So I was like, all right, I gotta be able to like try to, I gotta be able to keep a promise to myself. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And be real with myself. Yeah. So I remember we were like driving home on Oak Parkway. I remember, I told her and like, her, I didn't know what to expect from her, what her reaction would be, but it wasn't good. You know what I'm saying? She was very upset about it. It's just one of those things, just kind of made things like really hard, but, so the thing that helped me to quit, and I can't remember when it was, but it's been like years, but like, I didn't want to put anything like on my kids.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So like, and I don't really, at that time, even now, I didn't have like a huge like expanse of like spiritual warfare and like how that worked and, the ins and outs of how that worked. But I didn't want to, but I knew enough to know like, saying you can open stuff like, when you bring stuff in the house.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's a spiritual thing, and you can invite things into your home and it can affect your family. It's like, I really didn't want it like, and especially like the world we live in now, like everything is so sexualized and kids are confused and like, all kind of stuff. So it's like focusing on that and my children, that's actually what like helped me like quit.
Yeah.
I was like done with it.
So that's a really good point to bring up, because sometimes you got to find the why. You got to find like the reason or the source that can really snap you back into reality. You know what I'm saying? And another thing is, and this is the deeper level, is that there are spirits that's attached to stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's something that we don't really focus on, something we don't really talk about on a very regular basis. Yeah. But there are this, lustful spirits, spirits of harlots, all sorts of like demons literally that are attached to, we can't see them. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times we think of, maybe just possessing the person. But a lot of it can just be the action, you know what I mean? And once you dedicate yourself to the action, and that's just the same thing as opening up a door and saying, come on in. You know what I mean?
Okay, let me run it real quick. So the other thing that got me to that point before that was actually like a friend of mine. She was telling me that she had told me that she had walked in, her dad had a really bad like addiction to porn. And we're in our 20s and he still had that addiction. And she had walked in on him like looking at porn by accident. And like, it just like did something to the relationship. Like, I think like whenever he would like try to go to hug her, she would kind of like, kind of cringe back.
Yeah, that's tough.
And he's trying to explain to like, I would never like, do anything to you. And I'm sure he wouldn't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like,
that,
you know what I'm saying? When you introduce, when the kid sees that, that's like, you can't, you know what I'm saying? It's going to affect. And so
you can't unsee some things. You know what I'm saying?
So like, I was like, that's never going to be me. You know what I'm saying? So that, it was that. And then plus like, which had me thinking about my kids, which had me like done
finally
with it.
Draw the line.
Yeah.
So, man, for a lot of people, and again, praise God that you were able to get to that place and had those, experiences with old girl that had that situation happen to her, and you had the wherewithal to actually be able to make that hard line in the sand. But I want to talk about some of the things that porn does, even outside of the spiritual, like the psychological.
Okay.
Because it can create such a problem for like intimacy. It can create a problem for if you are single and looking for relationships, if you're in a relationship and looking to continue that relationship and keep it being substantial, right? Because what you're doing is not based out of reality. We're looking at women or men, depending on whatever, if you're a woman watching whatever it is, right? And you're feeding yourself these, ideal people, that are, they look whatever it is that you want to look at. It's usually not just one person. So now you're feeding yourself numerous ideas of different people. And we don't internalize. It's not a conscious thought process like, oh, this is going to make it more difficult for me to deal with one woman for the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're just thinking that this is just, I'm getting one off, right?
Yeah.
But realistically, what's happening is if we can't act it out in real life with person A that we see that we might want, and person B and person C and person D and F and G and however many it might go down the rabbit hole, we can go do that in our mind and we can still get that physical feeling in the moment. And so we attach ourselves to these particular people, even though they have no idea and we don't realize that's what we're doing. So when we actually get with one person, we still can have a tendency to struggle with just dealing with that one person.
Yeah.
Still having an urge for somebody else. It's hard enough as is anyway, because God made beautiful people. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And unless we have the discipline to really operate like that, it's all throughout the history of time. People have been struggling with dealing with other women. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And then like, the people you see, these actors, actresses, like on these like porn sites, like that's not how like a real woman acts.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like
100%.
the stuff you see, like it's not reality.
It's not reality.
You know what I'm saying? So like you set yourself up for failure. Man, I heard a story of a pastor. He was talking about porn, and like this couple got married, newlyweds, and like this dude was like, he had watched a bunch of porn like his whole life, and then like, when they first, had sex like on the honeymoon, like he basically was treating her like she was a porn star, and like it scarred her. They had to go like counseling, you know what I'm saying? Just because the way he was, he was just trying to live out those fantasies.
Yeah.
And like she's like a real person, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they never had sex before, you know what I'm saying? So like, it can do like, it can, like I said, the psychological, it could do a lot of damage.
Yeah, man. Because that's supposed to be something that's meant to keep you. It's supposed to be an intimate moment that's meant to bring you together, to hold you together. And the word, there was some scriptures I had actually for a previous something, but man, women, submit yourselves to your husband, and don't make them wait very long, without specific reasons for, fasting or whatever it is. And I forget where that was. That maybe Thessalonians. I don't want to get the wrong scripture, but it's in there. And there's a reason for that, right? Because as people, we do need each other, but in the right context, you know what I mean? It's not to be misused or abused, and we're not supposed to be out here treating each other like horse. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day. And no woman that values herself wants to feel like she's being treated like a horse. And for the ones that do, it's only because society has put up such a image that we have programmed within ourselves that says that it's okay to do that. That's not the natural way of things. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And so sometimes women or men buy into the thing that they've been seeing and they've been feeding themselves and go along with it, but the godliness inside us is not what's attached to that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you mentioned one of the things that that helped you, get past your porn situation, and that porn is something that I struggled with, man, from the time I was like 9 years old. You know what I mean? And that was before masturbation came into the picture. That was just looking at stuff, you know what I mean? I didn't even understand what I was doing.
Right.
And that lasted for the next like 25, almost 30 years, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And with periods of telling myself, yeah, I'm done with it, and then backsliding, and that can be difficult because like you said, it starts off as something that's, innocent or just here. And it ends up being something that, now I'm not even getting the pleasure out of it that I once did. I'm feeling guilty about it after the fact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm getting immediately to repentance and feeling bad about it. Like, man, now I got to start over again.
Yeah.
And
then you start running from God, you know what I'm saying? Just like Adam and Eve, like after, they ate the fruit, like, you try to like separate yourself from this holy God because you see him looking at you a certain way and like, you don't want to pray anymore. You don't get in your word because you feel so guilty.
Right.
You feel so dirty.
Right.
And it, it affects your spirit, it affects your 100%. Spiritual relationship.
100%. Yeah, man. Sexual immorality is mentioned so much throughout the Bible, man, for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people use the fact that porn wasn't a thing at that time, as a reason to justify it. Oh, well, they were talking about actually acting it out. But Jesus said that the thought was just as bad, right?
Right.
As the action.
If you look at a woman with lust, you have committed adultery in your heart.
So that's just what it boils down to.
It's pretty cut and dry. People will always try to like justify their sins, and man, it's crazy the lengths that people will go to. Like, just like, bro, that's a stretch. Like, you tripping right now. So.
Yeah, man. So there are some free resources that's out there. I want to touch on some of those a little bit later, but some of the things to do, and I did a little bit of research on this, and some of the stuff that I found out was pretty interesting because it's stuff that I never really took into account and never thought about. Mm-hmm. And Ruslan had a good informational video with some actionable plans to kind of break things up. And I took some notes from him and some other folks and kind of culminated with this list that I want to kind of put out here on how to overcome porn addiction. It's difficult for everybody, but there's a way out of it. And there's one thing that whatever it is you're struggling with, whatever it is you're dealing with, and if it's porn or if it's actual sexual misconduct or, like being promiscuous, whatever it is, like there's grace in Jesus Christ. There's forgiveness in that. And so there's work that needs to be done to get beyond whatever it is, but it definitely will be done, in the name of Jesus.
Amen.
So, the first thing, which is something I never ever thought about, is to identify the root of it. A lot of people, I don't think, really know, but you just mentioned, hey, somebody had a stash somewhere and they knew where the stash was, right? And if you can go back to that place, then you can begin to identify way to get away from it, right? Mm-hmm. Some people were sexually abused, or maybe you shouldn't so say it. Maybe some people dealt with SA and had issues growing up in their childhood or in their past somewhere, mm-hmm. and it kind of led them towards that. Other people just were, slipped into it out of, liking, people's anatomy, and then just it had some bad habits and then created curiosity, created the habit and then just continued down the rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
So, but the original idea is to find out what the root is, because like if I was growing up, right, and my mom or dad, used to, the only time that we had that was a good time was when we went to like eat ice cream or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. But when I was down and felt down, I would always go back to that one good place and I'd eat a bunch of ice cream, and maybe I ended up with some sort of eating disorder, right? Mm-hmm. That's a bad place to be once you have that eating disorder. Well, if I just like sweets and I could sneak into the counter and I could eat, whatever it was, and I just had a lack of self-control, I could still end up in a place with an eating disorder, right?
Yeah.
There are two different root causes. One is based out of like depression and some issues that are a little bit deeper rooted, that mm-hmm. you have to kind of address. And one is out of like a lack of discipline and like habits that's been created by myself, mm-hmm. But that still needs to be addressed, but they're two different things. It's a similar aspect with porn. That's why it's important to actually figure out what the root is.
Okay. Makes sense.
Number two, and probably one of the most important parts, is to confess it. To find somebody that you can talk to about it, that you can be honest with. Because like you said a minute ago, you start to get this guilty feeling. You start to just do this thing. It's in the closet somewhere. You don't talk about it with your friends. You don't talk about it with your family. Nobody knows about it. If somebody turns on your computer or opens up your phone and you have it on your Google something, you got, try to close it out before somebody, you got to, when you have to do all these checks and balances, mm-hmm. Man, skeletons in the closet are going to become problems, at the end of the day. You know,
everything comes to the light.
Yeah.
It's better to get ahead of that.
You know what I'm saying? And not only get ahead of it and then like never address it again, open it up to somebody that's able to speak into your life and that's able to ask you about it at some point down the line. Like, hey, you still dealing with that? Is that still an issue? It's something that you might be a little bit, maybe you might have to, I don't want to lie to this person, whatever it is. If you're in a relationship, man, talk to your wife about it. Talk to your girlfriend about it. And that's a very difficult conversation. You know what I mean? And if you don't want to jump on out there and say, hey, this is what I'm doing currently, you can say, hey, I've struggled with this in the past, and I don't want to do it. I think being honest all the way is the best way, because when you're lying to yourself and you're lying to somebody else, you're just lying to yourself anyway. And this is another thing, man, that I never really thought about, was to take note of when you're doing it. Never thought about that was important. To me, it was just like whenever the opportunity presented, nobody's around, I got a chance, But man, there's importance in data. And I never really thought about that before. But the more we can understand the when we're doing it, then the more we can understand the trigger behind why.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like, okay, maybe it's late at night, or maybe it's, after I was feeling frustrated about somebody's need, whatever it is. But there's a when that you're usually doing it. And then attached to that when, there's also a why. And if you can find that why, it's really helpful. The other thing is try to fill in the gaps with better habits and to eliminate the free time that you have. You mentioned something to me maybe about a year ago now, and you said, and it had nothing to do with porn, but it was like, man, you said, man, I'm trying to just imagine the person that I want to be, and then trying to actively be that person all the time,
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's so real.
What would the person I'm aspiring to be,
what would he be doing?
What would they be doing right now?
Exactly.
They be sitting here just looking at TV, or?
That's it.
Yeah.
And so when you find yourself, chilling, you went to work this morning, you got out of work, maybe you had some kind of errand to run, now you're at the crib by yourself, there's nothing really else going on for your day. Now I'm just stuck with TV, the games are to come on, the Netflix or the computer or the phone, and maybe it's just an opportunity if I'm a single man just out here. You know what I mean? Being actively intentional on creating the type of habits that God is calling us to do and to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of more the challenge. Like once we start operating, and once we start, it's not just a lot of it is just reading the word, not just, but a lot of it is getting into the word. But once we start trying to line our lives up with what it is that God wants us to be doing, it leaves less and less and less and less room for the wrong stuff that we end up having habits of.
Okay. So what you're saying is the busier you are, the less likely you are to get in some trouble.
That's it, man. Get busy.
So you need to get busy. There we go.
That's really what it boils down to, man. The idle mind is a devil's playground.
Yeah.
And there was this guy that was he was a porn star. I was watching this video, and he was talking about how he broke away from being in the porn industry. And he said something that was very specific for my life. He's like, you ever have those times when like you're looking up something and you type in the search bar and you hit, enter, and it takes a long time for it to load up, and it's like, man, but then you just go to the next website instead. It's like, well, you have something where like maybe you're looking something and somebody calls it, and you either look at the phone like, It's like, those are the times when God's trying to give you an out. Those are moments when like you got an opportunity, you know what I'm saying, to like get away from whatever it is. And your commitment to the sin is, either going to make you go all the way in, but you got that opportunity to jump out, and pay attention to those. When you get that opportunity, when something like that does happen, man, break out. And the more you break away from it, the more you see that you will break away from it. And as you're being intentional with doing those things, then the less of that desire you'll start to have. And I was like, man, that's pretty good. I never thought about it, but I've actually seen and experienced that,
That's really good.
On that note, man, get busy.
Get busy, y'all. We'll see y'all on the next episode.
Peace.
Peace.
And God